I've had a pretty good couple of years since the injury. Like somewhat, you know, injury free. I've had a couple bumps and bruises, but nothing too serious until this winter. Coming into this winter, I kind of was like, I'd never felt so good. I didn't really have any injuries. I had nothing bothering me. I just felt like I was so far ahead of where I'd ever been, which was cool. You know, it's like sometimes you don't see progress for a long time, and you kind of just got to bite down and keep pushing forward, because at some point it will come through, and it came through this year. You know, I felt so good, so confident, just like itching for any swell, for any opportunity. And going into the Pipe Masters, I had a pretty bad fall in that last heat of mine. Ended up getting slammed on the reef. I scorpioned and had a grade 2 MCL tear in my left knee. The knee opposite of the one I had reconstructed after my Morocco incident. So that was definitely like the first big red flag of the winter. Yeah, I was able to get an MRI on it the day of the final day of the Pipe Masters, and next day I was on my way to San Francisco to see my doctor, Mossy Reynolds, and he performed a bone marrow harvest stem cell treatment and a PRP injection into my left MCL, and within 2 weeks I was back out at Pipeline, and I felt great. I kind of felt like I stepped right back into where I left off. Like I took like a 2-week break, and then boom, I was right back into it. And within a few days of being in the water, this swell popped up. They called the Eddy on, and I was tripping. The Eddy Aikau to me is the most prestigious event in my eyes in sports, any sport. There's no event that brings culture, community, and performance under one umbrella like the Eddy. And anyone who's close to me knows what the Eddy means to me. I lost my brother when I was 8 years old. My brother was at the forefront of professional surfing and big wave surfing. He was a town and country team rider at the time. And my last conversation with him was that he was going to be the first person from Maui standing on the podium of the Eddy Aikau Invitational, and that was his dream. Feeling the energy of that event at 9 years old, I immediately took my brother's dream and made it mine. And this year when they called the Eddy on, you know, I'm 2 weeks out of an MCL tear, and I'm just like, people are asking me, are you gonna surf it? And I was like, are you kidding me? I'll surf this event with one leg. Like, there's nothing in the world that'll stop me from competing and wearing an Eddy Aikau jersey. Unfortunately, 2 days later after they called it on, the swell, the conditions kind of started to fall apart, and they had to call it off. Fortunately, with that swell, with the winds being bad for the Eddy, it actually created perfect conditions on Maui at Jaws, and went back home to Maui and ended up having quite possibly the best day of big wave paddle surfing I've ever had. was a really good feeling to kind of have that in my back pocket after being sidelined for a couple weeks with the MCL injury. It just brought a lot of confidence going into the Backdoor Shootout, which started 2 days later. Flew back home, straight back into the Shootout. Shootout was pumping, it was huge, it was gnarly. It was, you know, guts and glory, and what the Backdoor Shootout's all about, you know. It's 10s or nothing. And had a couple good waves. In my second heat of the first day of the event, I just made a really bad decision on a wave and ended up wearing the entire lip of the wave on the back of my head, which drove my head face first into my board, knocking myself unconscious with a few stitches on the inside and outside of my mouth. That wave at pipe also strained my hamstring, and also I have a bulged C5, C6 in my spine, and it really lit that area up. Definitely a situation that was new to my family. I mean, I've never been pulled out of the water unconscious like that, and to have it happen at home in front of all my friends, all my family, my wife, my children, my sponsors, you know, it was rough. It took a toll, and the injury in Morocco was one thing. You know, I was on the other side of the world. They didn't know about it until I was in a hospital. Here, to see, you know, I can't really fathom it, but like my kids seeing their father, my wife seeing her husband unconscious on the beach at Pipeline, their emotions were connected because they were there in person. They've never seen me come out of the water unconscious. They've never seen me get rescued like that. And one of the first things I seen when I was on that stretcher, when they're giving me oxygen, I turned my head and I made eye contact with my son, Lion, who's 5 years old, screaming, you know, and I had some stitches. I was cut on my face, so there's blood everywhere. That look on a kid at 5 years old, like, that's not what you want to see. Yeah, it kind of just put me at a standstill again. It was like, I just felt like I couldn't get a break. MCL, I do all this work. I go to Cali, do stem cell treatments, PRP, ozone, physical therapy, just sacrifice after sacrifice into boom, hitting my head, like dealing with a severe concussion, stitches in my face, tweaked my hip again. Like everything just felt like it was not going in my way. And that really took a toll on me. And we've dealt with quite a bit this winter, and I just truly believe that, you know, nothing good in life comes easy. And I've been a living testament to that. And the next day, my best friend had a similar situation, but probably 10 times worse. Claude Grace took a fall out at Pipeline and was knocked out unconscious for minutes, rushed to the hospital. I was, I guess you could say, lucky enough to be in the ambulance with him and help him fight his way back to life. He straight up beat life. You know, he was against all odds, and that to me was really a shocking couple of days. I kind of just felt like I blacked out for 3 days, and I was sitting out under the banyan tree outside of Queens Hospital waiting for them to take him out of sedation. He was in an induced coma, and they were gonna see if he could breathe on his own. And once he was, you know, kind of discharged and we realized that he was gonna make a full recovery, I on Wednesday morning woke up here at my house and just kind of checked in with myself and realized I could barely even spell my own name, let alone like carry a conversation and have a consistent normal speech. Everything was broken up. My brain was pulling me from opposite ends. Light was piercing me, and I was just really nauseous, and it was something I've never dealt with. And knowing that this concussion had been going on for a few days now was really scary. I was really fortunate enough to be teamed up with Wave Neuro, and they immediately scheduled all the scannings on my brain, and I just went all in with it. I was sleeping 8 hours a night in my hyperbaric chamber, doing 2 to 3 brain sessions a day. I was in the gym, just eating directly towards like neuro progress, helping my brain. And by Friday, I felt pretty damn good. And I was starting to get asked, are you gonna surf the eddy? Because eddy was getting called on. We're looking at 50 to 60 foot face waves for the eddy. You know, it's no joke coming out of a concussion. It's one thing to think about serving WAIMEA. It's another thing to think about serving WAIMEA, the biggest it's ever been. You know, I'd have to be dead to not show up at the Eddie. And then it became like this conversation with my wife and my family, like, what's going on with your brain? Like, before you just go throw yourself back in the fire, can we at least have like some sort of peace of mind that you're not gonna come out of this if you fall into a vegetable? Like, that's the possibilities. You know, I have friends who have hit their head out at pipe and drowned. They're in wheelchairs, you know, they're vegetables still, and it's really unfortunate. A few MRIs later, I got cleared literally the night before by my doctor, like, hey, you're not at risk. Like, you know, be careful as much as you can be, but, you know, you deserved this. Go out there and let it shine. From my neck to my brain to my left knee, there was kind of quite a bit of obstacles going on. It was hard to deal with, but just knowing the prestige and how special that event was, it took a lot of the pain and a lot of the nerves away from just even thinking I had an injury. You know, I thought I was gonna lead up into the Eddie feeling the strongest, most disciplined and prepped I've ever been. By no means was that the case. I made it by a thread, but I just look back at everything I've went through, watching my mom fight cancer, watching my brother lose life to drugs, my best friends, you know, Morocco injury, just so many different things that have tried to push me in a direction of life that I didn't let happen. Just used it all as motivation and inspiration, just kind of like a roadmap to victory. The day the Bay called it was gonna be the most important day of my life.